I went on active duty at the Naval Air Station Olathe in July of 1958. I went to work in tech training as an instructor for aviation machinist mates. I worked in tech training for 3 years, then went to the flight line and aircraft maintenance for 2 years. Got out of the Navy in July of 1965, out for about 6 months, and then I went in the Air Force. And as far as the history goes, John Glenn took his primary flight training there in about 1941 or 2, and it was all board sidewalks and not much for runways either at that time.
I have an older brother and I have a younger brother, and we all three at one time were stationed at the naval base out here. And I got drafted in 1945, went to Fort Leavenworth, came back home, went back to Fort Leavenworth, and they said, what branch of service do you want to be in? I said, I want to be in the Navy. So I got over there and started in the Navy and went out to San Diego to the boot camp. And so anyway, I came back and I came out to Olathe in 1947. Spent a considerable period of time there, and I went from there to Boston, South Weymouth Naval Air Station, and I retired after 22 years in the Navy in 1967.
I was aboard ship. I joined the Naval Reserves in Joplin, Missouri in 1952, October. In 1954, at September, I was ordered to active duty. 30 days later, I was in Korean waters. I run on the LST 1122, later named the San Joaquin County, LST 1122. We went from all up and down the Japanese coast, Okinawa, Iwo Jima, Korea, many times to Korea, up and down the coast of Korea, haul supplies in there, haul supplies out.
And June of 1962, I came out to Olathe Naval Air Station and enlisted. And I belonged to a heavy attack bomber squadron. And we got attached to the USS Constellation, but I flew with the executive officer of our squadron. We were in VAH-10, Heavy Attack Bomber Squadron. I was air crewman. I wasn't an officer, I was air crewman as a petty officer, and I flew the third seat. My seat backed up to the pilot, so everything I saw was backwards. And when you come in for like a landing on a carrier at night and you're flying backwards, it's quite a surprise when you finally hit the deck, you know. It really jolts you. But I had a lot of experience. I always tell everybody I grew up in the Navy because I was just fresh out of high school when I joined, and I was in there for 6 years. And when I got out, I had a lot better idea of what I wanted to do with my life.
I enlisted about a week before I was supposed to get drafted in the Army. Well, my MOS was a radio repair, but anyway, I transferred into the Air Force, and from there, it was a whole lot more different than in the Army, because we went all over the place. Went to Spain, the Philippines, Okinawa. I was stationed in Richards Bower.
Well, I started out there, draft board got me and said, we need you, Uncle Sam needs you. But there's 4 of us boys, and the older ones all went to the Army, and when they get home, they drafted another one. And so I was the end of it, and I went in 1963. The main thing I remember was riding the ship over and the ship back. About 12 days on that ship, hearing that ooh, 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 ooh. And then coming back home about 9 days, I think. Somewhere in New York over to Germany where we landed. But I never seen no danger or anything. I was just helping out Uncle Sam.